Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to the second part in the series of webinars called Developing a Self-Reliant Refractory Industry Post-COVID-19. In our last session, we had Dr. Chattopadhyay highlighting the challenges that are plaguing the refractory industry in this pandemic situation. It has now become very certain that self-reliance will be the key to sustaining the industry and making it more dynamic in the long run. Since Atmanirbharta is now a trending tagline in our country, introduced and popularized by our Honorable PM, Mr. Modi, today we will be discussing the tools and the practices for self-reliance in the refractory industry. Today we have Mr. Mohan Garg, Chairman of IMRIS, as our guest speaker, followed by Dr. Somen Sinha, Director R&D of Calories, to discuss inputs in the refractory industry technology. I now request Mr. Garg to share his viewpoints with us. Over to Mr. Garg.
Greetings from Calderis. Today, between me and my colleague Dr. Somen Sinha, we will attempt an answer to the question how to make Indian refractory industry self-reliant. As you can see, it is motivated by Honorable Prime Minister's call for Atmanirbhar Bharat, and that's where Indian refractory industry also need to work towards making itself self-reliant. But before we attempt an answer to this question, as it is said that most of the time answers lie in the question itself, I would attempt to look at the question a bit in detail so that we can look at the possible answers. Now, situation of the Indian industry as such today, or country as such today, is that India is now facing two crises at the same point of time. COVID-19, a pandemic, where India is not alone. India is, along with the rest of the world, is facing this crisis. And surely it had an impact on industry and economy. And the second one, which is very specific to India and a little bit to do with other parts of the world, is geopolitical issues. Now, what do they indicate? Talking about pandemic, the COVID-19, it's resulting into two things which we need to solve, or for which we need to look for an answer before we can say that we are moving towards self-reliant refractory industry in India. What COVID-19 is doing is, one, it is leading to a huge demand uncertainty. And second, it is also leading to huge supply chain disruptions. Now, how is it that it is leading to demand uncertainty? As you know, that refractory industry serves most of the essential industries, be it iron and steel, be it cement, be it petrochemical, be it boilers and incinerators, be it aluminium or other metals, be it sponge iron. All of them somewhere are linked with essential goods or services consumed by all of us, the consumers. Now, with pandemic throwing the entire demand out of gear, and with having no near-term solution visible to us, there's a lot of uncertainty resulting into the consumption of all these essential items, which we as individual consume. And in as a result, uncertainty for demand, which is there from some of these industries which refractory industry serves, and in turn for the refractory industry itself. Country is still under lockdown, though we can say that we are in an unlock phase 1.0, but as such, country is still under lockdown. The cases are still rising, and so is the uncertainty around demand. In fact, one of the most appropriate phrase which I often use, that even the uncertainty is uncertain. Coming to the second point, which is supply chain disruption. What COVID has done, it has thrown a lot of uncertainty on the resources which are required to move this entire supply chain. Be it raw materials, be it operations or resources required for operations, and especially people as a resource. And those constraints are leading to huge disruption which is happening in the supply chain. At the same point of time, consumer industry, which also is dependent on a lot of imports of refractory from outside because it's not produced in India, is also facing challenge because of disruption happening on the import supply chain part. So that covers the issue which country is facing due to COVID pandemic. Now coming to geopolitical issues. There's an issue, as we know today, with China. There's an escalation of border tension, and it's definitely creating troubles for industry, which is dependent on Chinese import, and so is refractory industry. The call by the Indian government and Honorable Prime Minister is to prepare the country and the industry for least dependence on China, if possible, wherever possible, and also at the same point of time enhance the capability of our industry, recover our production, and also increase our production to meet our domestic demand. There's one more factor which is getting into play, and some bit of it has to do with pandemic as well. And that's the trade imbalance which has been created in the world economy. So a lot of restrictions are being imposed on trade, not warranted. In fact, I would say it's kind of anti-globalization which is happening. And every country wants to improve its domestic economy, its domestic production of finished goods, and they want to support local manufacturing for local job creation. So these are the two key challenges as we see when we work towards self-reliant refractory industry. Now let's look at the refractory industry a bit closely. What's there in refractory industry itself, which is a challenge for us, and why is that this industry is so much dependent on import, and which is a key question for us to answer as we move ahead. So first thing is surely cost advantage. Cost is a function of capacity utilization. It's a function of scale of operation. It's a function of efficiency. And naturally, our neighbors have the advantage on this front. So in terms of scale of operation, in terms of efficiency, in terms of modernization of the plants, surely they are ahead of us. And at the same point of time, governments of these countries, such as China, from where the exports of refractory materials happen, and especially the export of finished goods happen, they do provide export incentives, export benefits to make their manufacturers competitive, and this applies to a lot of economies. Second handicap, the thing which has to do with technology. domestic industry is as such margin strapped. We are working in a scenario where we are heavily squeezed on margins. There's less money which is available on table. And naturally, when you have lesser margin and when you are struggling to uh, meet the corners, you would always have a constraint in terms of investment on research and development and constraint in terms of developing advanced solutions. Now, this is where Western players have an advantage. And incidentally, Caldres enjoys this advantage being part of a global group, being part of the Emirates group. And Western players, including Caldres, has an advantage in terms of higher R&D spend in the matured market, and then our ability to bring such best of the world solutions to India. But then, as such, as an industry, I think it's an handicap in India. Third, and the most important part, to produce finished goods, you need quality raw materials. And not only quality raw materials, but unconstrained supply of raw materials. Refractory industry in India is constrained by the fact that India has a challenge in terms of both quality and quantity of raw materials required for manufacturing its finished goods, and wherein definitely China has an edge over it, and they have vast resources. Some bit of it also has to do with our ability to scout for new resources, our ability to ease the policy for mineral exploration, mining, and at the same point of time, constraint in terms of beneficiation. And whatever is available in the country, making it suitable for producing the good quality finished goods which are required by the end user industry. So, going by these two factors, the challenges which are faced by economy and industry as such, and obviously which has an impact on refractory industry, be it COVID pandemic or geopolitical issue. And at the same point of time, India's dependence on imports, not only for finished goods because of cost advantage or technology advantage, but also India is dependent on raw materials because of the sheer inability to meet the demand of domestic refractory industry in terms of quality and quantity is posing a challenge for Indian refractory industry to become self-reliant. Now I hand it over to my colleague, Dr. Somen Sinha, and let's hear from him what Indian refractory industry, and in particular, what Caldres in India is doing in order to make ourselves self-reliant and contributing towards the dream of our Honorable Prime Minister of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I'm handing it over to Dr. Somen Sinha.
Thank you, Mr. Garg. I would like to present refractory industry's action plan to mitigate the challenge discussed by you. At the outset, let me mention refractory is a heterogeneous system. Its quality depends on raw material, processing techniques, and application process. Mostly it's a solution which has to be worked out based on the information of end application from the customer end. Hence, collaborative approach with the raw material suppliers and customers are always essential to work out a win-to-win proposition. Refractory manufacturing units will continue to work for improving operational efficiency to counter the effect of import material cost increase. For an example, Caldres gives a lot of focus on Emirates industrial improvement, that is IQ, for improving operational efficiency or excellence, through which minutely we look into each and every process and hardware and arrest that losses or improve the process or the productivity or the efficiency. Refractory industry continuously upgrades the manufacturing facility to improve efficiency and automation. Galleries India has commissioned state-of-art plant in Vankaner and with a global know-how, and similar projects, both green and the brownfield, are in pipeline. So with sophisticated manufacturing plants which help us to produce reliable products as per global standards, refractory companies are also working to provide enhanced solution to reduce total cost of ownership. Galleries is a solution-based company capable of providing turnkey solution, has come up with high-performance solution like precast prefab shapes, ready, which is otherwise we tell ready shapes, nano-bonded castable, chemically bonded castable, special lightweight raw material, monolithic, high-performance mold powder. So all those things are developed to give a better solution and improve the performance, and in turn it will improve the specific consumption factor also. While working in-house for continuous improvement, refractory industry wants our valued customer to acknowledge our efforts, considering the benefits they get by domestic sourcing like reduced working capital, supply lead time, faster customer support. So these are all the things we request our valued customer also to make a note out of it. Refractory industry expects continuous collaboration with customers for doing trials and knowledge sharing. So this is a collaborative approach we need to follow to make it a success. To address the challenge of technology gap or handicaps, which was mentioned there, we can say after globalization, manufacturers present in India refractory industry have capability to make world-class products and services in India. As an example, we can say that with Calgary's global know-how, we have set up the lance manufacturing facility in Katni, and we are producing hot metal lance, steel lances, and it is performing very good, and they are in the market. So similar kind of initiatives also will take in near future. So this is another thing we'd like to present. And refractory industry is investing a lot to introduce mechanical application in India. I mean, whatever we can do from the industrial side, the manufacturing side, already we have discussed. Now, having said that, there are a lot to do in the application side. How to do that? I mean, considering the COVID scenario also. So there, Galleries India has introduced shortcutting, a high-speed, reliable and safe application technique in India, working satisfactorily for last 3 years. We have introduced hydrojetting, mechanized dismantling in India to reduce human intervention. Remote inspection coupled with faster technical support is being done for best customer satisfaction. So these are all the initiatives, I mean some of the initiatives which you mentioned for against mechanized application, mechanized dismantling, and to reduce human intervention. It is a safe technique. So this will also help us to work under this present scenario. Refractory industry also wants customer support for trial opportunity for these initiatives, because I mean in the first instance, I mean it may not be successful always, though we try to make it success in the first instance itself. But if there is a scope of opportunity or the improvement is found, then we need to have some scope to do so that we need customer support. As the raw materials, technology are the same, only the solution will be delivered from indigenous sources. Hence, we request our valued customer to keep price expectation at par with imports, though it will be beneficial considering other advantages like sourcing locally and so many other things already we have discussed. Coming to the third challenge, that is the unavailability of raw material in country. Refractory industry is diversifying raw material sourcing from other countries, even at the expense of higher cost, because sometimes it may be necessary also. We cannot we cannot stop supplies of the end products. Calories being an Imidis group of company, so we are basically Imidis is they are in specialty minerals. So we know raw material sources from other countries which are being used now and will be explored more in future. So synthetic raw material may be a solution because we know there is a limitation of the natural occurring raw material. If the purity goes down, then we need to enhance the purity or for the matter the properties, and the way forward is the synthetic raw material by blending with some other ingredients and improving the properties. So synthetic raw material may be a solution, and Calories is equipped and has produced in past to cater domestic market to counter Chinese turmoil. New explorations, assessment and beneficiation will also be necessary. For that, we also need support from government. Being an Imidis group of companies, we have know-how and expertise of mining and further processing. So initially, our customer may experience some price elasticity as it will be there to de-risk the supply chain, because we need to source the material from low risk countries. But in the long run, it will be an advantage because we will be providing the sustainable solution. So in conclusion, I will refer to one simple proverb: where there is a will, there is a way. As an industry, we are geared up to face this challenge and work for sustainable solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. I think that's been a very good summary or very good confidence which you had given that Indian refractory industry is capable of making itself self-reliant, provided, yes, it goes without saying that the support of our customers is paramount. And at the same point of time, support from our government is also very, very important, and especially in the area of exploration, assessment, and beneficiation of raw materials, because that's the key behind Indian refractory industry becoming self-reliant. Yes, I agree. There are a lot of efforts which are being done, not only by Cadbury's but also by Indian players to become cost competitive as much as possible. However, somewhere we do need to remember that if industry has to deliver the world-class products, it has to deploy the world-class resources to deliver those products, and that's where comes a realistic expectation in terms of pricing. And as I mentioned during when I was discussing about challenges, that if the margin available on the table is squeezed, the capability of the industry to invest in research and development also gets shortened. And that's probably a vicious cycle where over a period of time, it's becoming more and more difficult for industry to invest in technology. I think the players who are present in India, be it global or be local, they are all willing to make this investment. Supported by customers, I'm sure we can get over this challenge, and we can definitely meet the challenge or the call given by our Honorable Prime Minister to become self-reliant or become Atmanirbhar Bharat. Hope you could appreciate the points made by me as well as my colleague Dr. Sinha. And in case if you have any questions, you are most welcome to write to either of us or write to ISR Media, and we will be very happy to help you with the answers to your queries. Thank you very much, and wishing you all the best.